Welcome to People Love Process. In this movie, I just want you to sit back and observe as I build a complete logo mark from scratch. You'll see how I do it in real time and learn how thinking in shapes will help you achieve a greater level of craftsmanship in your own work. Let's get started. Now, over the years, I've created a lot of different graphics based off of the theme of a lion. Here are three of my favorites, and it's always a fun topic to work with, but I have a different motif that I'm going to create based off of a lion. So whether you're creating something iconic like this or something more realistically proportioned, using reference to see what makes a lion a lion. And the one thing I want to point out is their nose. Most people think of a triangle, and that's fine. But it kind of goes up from the lip, curves, gets to a point, then it goes into the triangle. And their eyes are really cool because this is, if you deduce it down to simple shape, probably the best is on the far right here. It's kind of, it goes square, curves, and then goes back in and then tapers down. And so if you look at areas like that and you just think in shape and form, how to simplify that in a graphic sense, that's all design is. It's thinking made visual. So pay attention to those shapes in your referencing, then you can draw out your design. This design is going to be symmetric because it's a lot easier to create a graphic. And I try to draw it as I intend to build it, meaning I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be doing shapes here. And I try to pay attention to that type of detail. So this is my symmetric drawing. Once again, I scan it in using a flatbed scanner you've seen me reference before. Bring it into Photoshop and test it. I'll even drop some black into one level just to get the idea of how it would read if it's just a fill, no stroke. And that's what I have here. Once I have this, I'll select it in the transparency palette. I'll set this for 15% and I'll lock this and I'll start building. Now there's a few things I need to pay attention to before I start fundamentally building all the components, and that is what's the easiest shapes to build. You've seen me do this before. It's the circular shapes, the elliptical shapes. Those are apparent up here in the crown. They're apparent in the I guess, jowls. I don't know if you call it jowls, but the mouth of the lion. And I want to keep the continuity intact, meaning these gaps, whether it's between the top of the head and the crown, I want that negative space to be the same negative space. Even though this looks tapered, I don't want it that way. I want it to be straight. All these need to be straight. So I just wanted to show you that because these are the things I keep in mind before I start building and I establish those. So if I select this shape here, kind of the space in between the left and right part of the nose, and we go up here, you can see it's 15 points. And this gap cutting into the right side is, again, 15 points is showing up here. These are the things I want to retain. These are the things that I want to keep this way. So with that said, we're going to zoom in on the face because one of the first things I want to do is I want to take a square here and go to the central guide, and we'll go ahead and draw a square like that. I'm going to rotate it. And most of these angles, if I bring this down, that'll align with this bottom edge here. But at the top, I don't want it to be a perfect, kind of a perfect square. So I'm going to just highlight this and drag this down to get the angle like that, because I really like the feel of my drawing. Now that we have that, I can select a corner like this. We can select these two corners, and if you use the corner widget, and we can pull this in to get those curves like that. And we can go down here, up here at the top, and we can go like this to pull that like that to get the curve up there. That's all looking the way I think we want it to be. That's fine. And now where I'll make some edits is I'm going to go down here, and this is going to seem a little odd, but we'll find where the edge of this circle is and snap it like that. The reason why I did that is I'm going to use that to edit the shape we just created. So with this on top, I'll go to Pathfinder, minus front, and we'll do that. And that means where it goes through this, it's hitting on the point here, and that's what we want. It'll make more sense when I kind of walk through that part a little later. But what we can do here is I can go ahead and, let's see here, we'll go to the pen tool. I'm going to add some points here like that. We'll add a few more. Add one here and one here, because I'm going to bring this over like this, snap that to that point, snap that to that point like this. That's good. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the center again. And this is where I'll just create a giant circle. And this is just going to be the overarching curve of the nose. I might even adjust it. It's a little too, that's better. Like that. I'll go back to the square, create another square, rotate it. Bring this down. Select these two pieces, go intersect to create the nose shape. That looks fine. I'll select these jowls. And once again, these are 15, this line, so I'm going to take these, and I'm going to go offset, and I'm going to go 15 to get the spacing down below, like that. We'll select these, we'll unite them. I can even copy, sometimes I'll copy the shape because it has the same angle I want on it, and I'll clone it, and then I'm just going to size it up from the center. And I'm just going to drop this down to make the chin here, like that. I'll make sure this is on top. If I go ahead and fill it with blue, you can see it's behind that bottom, so we want to make sure it's on top. Then I'll select the chin, I'll minus front. There'll be artifacting, so I'll ungroup, get rid of that, and then we can go back to the corner widget, and I'll set that rounding here. And actually, if I wanted to really pay attention to what I'm doing with the corners, is I could go ahead and select this top and bottom and round them so they're identical, like that. But in this case, I really don't need to do that. So I'm just going to undo it because I do want this one to be different down to here. They don't need to match. But if you really want to have your continuity intact, you could handle it that way if you wanted. Once we add this, I'm going to select, I keep wanting to say jowls, but I don't think that's what they're called, the mouth. And we'll fuse it or unite it like that. I'll take the nose and this gap area. We'll unite those once again. These are sitting on top, so we'll take this shape and we'll minus front. Now we have pretty much the whole interior shape of the lion selected. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this and we're going to offset it. So we'll go path, offset, 15 to get that curve up here, like that. And you can see I have a little gap here. I just thought bringing that in further, now that I see that, I think I'm gonna expand it even further. Let's do another offset of this. Not that far. We'll go, I don't know, 4 maybe. I think 4 looks pretty good. Maybe even less than that. 3.5, something like that. I think that works. And now I'll just drag this over until that hits that. And then I don't want to round it just from this corner. So sometimes I'll do this like that. And then I'll use the corner widget to round it just so I get something that's more tapered and not, yeah, actually I like that. Now that we have that established on that side, I can go ahead and take this, clone it, Command-C, Command-F, find a central anchor point on the nose, reflect it over, so we have that. Now, if I want to keep building with this, I tend to do this a lot, where I'll just take a shape I already have, And I'll intersect it just to get another shape because I'll use this to create the cutouts here. And this will be at a 45-degree angle, so it's easy to align it like that. And this, go ahead and slide it over. Now I want to create the eyes. So something right about there, right about there. Then we'll intersect it to get that shape. I don't want this one like that, so maybe something like that. And by the way, I clicked on dynamic corners because I usually use that, but I'm trying to stick with just native tools. So we'll use the corner widget here. And we'll round off the top of the eye here. I think that looks pretty good. Now what we can do is we can go offset on these eyes. And we'll go 15. We'll see what that looks like. And we don't want round, we want miter, like that. And everything looks good except down here. And this is where I'll go to the scissor tool and I'll cut it here and cut this here. Get rid of this part. And this is where I go to a plugin. So we have this curve coming here, and we want this curve to just keep going until it gets all the way down here. Well, there is no way to do that natively in Illustrator, and this is where plugins do come in handy. Let's zoom in so you can see this a little better. We're going to go to a plugin that's part of Vector Scribe called the Extend Path tool. It's awesome. And we'll just take this, and all this does is it knows the geometry that's in this curve, and it says, okay, well, if this keeps going, and we went to here, this is what it looks like. How cool is that? I mean, when they first came out with this tool years and years ago, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so much saving me time. And now on this, I'll go ahead and do this, close the path. Once we have that, we can reunite it and get rid of that shape. So even though you can't do that natively in Illustrator, super, super, super helpful. It's why I use plugins with native tools because it makes the whole process go faster. I'll clone those, Command-C, Command-F, find a central anchor point, reflect it over. All we need to do now is we need to build the outer part of the main. So we'll go to the center, snap it, create a giant square, rotate it. Ooh, I almost hit that dead on. And we'll go ahead and bring this down like this. And you can see it's not a perfect square. That's fine. I don't want it to be a perfect square. So I'll just highlight these anchors and drag it up until it aligns with my drawing. And that's why I draw stuff out. I want it to look like my drawing. And then this one, I'm going to have to drag down like that. That looks fine. And now we can select this side and this side because these need to be exact. So we'll adjust the curves. That looks good, like that. And I'm going to show you a trick. Well, not really a trick, just the easiest way to do it. We'll create a box and we'll rotate it 45 degrees. We'll position it right about there, like that. I'll select this main, the shape that makes up the main. Select this box, intersect it, take this handle, put it here like that. Then I'll select this anchor, and we're going to find that curve like this. Now all we have to do is offset this. So path, offset 15, boom, we have it, select it. This shape, let's go ahead and fill it with blue so you can see I'm doing sitting on top of their shape. Once again, the process doesn't have to be clean, just has to be precise. We're going to cut that. This is where I'll take another shape for no other reason than editing purposes. We'll make another copy of this, bring it up here. And this is where Let me make this one bigger, and I'm going to snap it to this corner. Okay, I think I'm going to adjust it just right like that. And we'll trim this in with that shape. We'll take that same shape, and I'm going to trim the end there so visually it'll align with the other one. And then this one, make sure it's on front, select this and edit it. Now I can select this shape and round it, select this shape and round it. But notice, to do it this way, it's going to be harder to create this shape. So it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to do offset. So this is why I created the original shape like this, like that. And I'll put it here like this. We can go ahead and get rid of this. Then I'll select the main shape, make a copy of it, intersect it with this one, isolate this anchor, curve it to match the drawing like this. Because this is at 45 degrees, I'll go ahead and extend this a little like that. Then we'll go ahead and offset this 15 points like that. Select this, fill it. It's sitting on top, doesn't have to be perfect. We'll minus front to get that shape. We're going to make another throwaway shape. Rotate it 45 degrees. Snap it here so it's the same area. Make a copy, bring it down here. This will edit this bottom part. This part sitting on top will edit that. And now we have that detail shape that we need. This is where I'll isolate a corner, use the corner fillet to add that rounding in. And this is also where we need to work out the crown. So I'll go from the center outward with the square tool. I'll bring this down. Oops, accidentally selected the paintbrush. And we'll find that angle right about there. I don't want to get rid of the top, so I'm going to select the box we just made, make a copy of both, intersect it, then take this shape with it sitting on top of the main shape. We'll do that. Now I can select these curves and adjust it with the corner widget. That looks good. We can take this shape now and the main shape, and we'll go ahead and unite those together to get the final shape. Then I can offset this to create the gap in between the crown and the main. We go offset 15, standard we've been using. Make sure this is in front, color it, select the shape that will be the crown, trim the bottom, and now we can take those elliptical shapes we created at the very beginning, go ahead and fuse them together, make sure they're a compound, make sure that they're sitting on top. They're not, so we'll bring that to front. And we'll knock that out like that. We only have a few more things to do, so we're going to take this shape, these two shapes, fill them, unite them. It's going to default to a group, change it to a compound, bring to front, select the face shape, minus front to knock those out. Now we have all those elements here. We're going to select these two. We'll go ahead and fill these with blue. Make sure that they're on top of the main shape. Actually, we'll do this one too. We'll get rid of this since we're going to unite all three of these together like that. We'll unite it. Make sure it's a compound again. Check the appearance palette. Once we add that, we're going to copy it, Command-C, Command-F, find a central anchor point with Command-U, Smart Guides turned on, reflect it over, select both of these, and now we're going to go unite. It's going to revert back to a group. I really wish Illustrator didn't do that, but that's why I have keyboard shortcut set up with F7. Select the main, minus front. Now we have all that detail. But notice this, I wanted it to be a nice round here. So this is where I'll select this and I'll round it like that. And I'll just pull it out until it can't go further because of the anchor points, but it looks really well. So these are simple methods to do this kind of building. This isn't hard to build this way. And at times, as I create shapes, if I want to save them, I'll put them on a layer above it. In this case, I called it build layer. Now, I didn't do that at this point, but as you build, if you're not sure you might use another shape later, by all means do that. We have a tonal family figured out for this design, so we can turn off our sketch here. And all I'm going to do is what color do you think the crown would be? Maybe gold. And then we're going to select the main. I'm going to select all that, copy, paste behind all the facial shapes like this. All these we'll color white like that. Now, all of these, depending on what you're doing specifically with the design, you might select all of these, unite them, make sure it's a compound path, select the main shape, and minus front out of the shape. So actually, this is the white of the background of the document showing, and that's usually what I do. Now, one thing I'd also do at this point is after I get a core asset built like this, I'll zoom in, and on all of these areas that come to a sharp dagger point, because it's vector art, I go in and I do subtle rounds on these because it just works way better. And I usually don't use the corner widget. I like using the dynamic corners tool by Astute Graphics here. So I'm going to open that up and just demonstrate how it works, because I can just hover. I don't have to select an anchor point, and I just pull it out and I go, that looks good. I like that. I'm going to apply it to this one over here. I want to apply the same round to here and here. So I don't have to select all these. I can just go around and just add that rounding to all the detailed areas, or the points that I want it to be. So that's why I use both plugins and native tools, because some of these features work a lot better in plugins and makes the process a whole lot faster to pull off, and it helps retain all that continuity. So vector art is great, but at times it tends to be a little too perfect, too sharp. And this is where subtle rounding kind of brings a nice handcrafted aesthetic to it. And we'll add that over here. We'll do it to the top here. So anywhere it comes to a point, I'll do that. And you might be thinking, well, is the client ever going to notice this? Probably not. But you know what? You're the designer. You'll notice it. So why not take the time to dial in a design and really button it up nicely by putting in this kind of detail? Because frankly, it's going to print better. At a smaller size, it's going to print better. And you don't want these too fat. You want these nice and thin, like that. So this is where I'll add all this kind of rounding on. I think this one will make just a little bigger, like that. And once again, the nice thing about this feature is I can go back here and let's say what I use on the left, it's 0.381. So I click it, it locks that in. Then I can go over here and apply that same round to the same opposing anchors on the opposing side. So when it's all said and done, we have our final art looking like this, and I think this just looks really, really cool. If I select both these and group them, and I go ahead and make a copy, Command-C, Command-F, and I just drag it to this layer, then it also works on a light background, but it will also work really great if I decide to make it a one-color graphic on a dark background. So these are the methodology I use when I create a logo mark. Actually, as I'm looking at this might look really cool just as oh yeah, that looks a lot better. So a lot of ways you could use this once you have your asset created, of course. But these are just simple methods that I use on a daily basis, and the tools that I use, whether it's a plugin, whether it's native tools to pull it off precisely. Anybody can do that. So take your time. Don't rush the process. You always get better results when you don't. Thinking in shapes is one of the most essential skills as a designer. Doing so will help you figure out how to draw something. Then you can use the same skill to know how best to build it in vector form as well. Thank you for watching People Love Process. If you have a question about a specific style or an existing feature or functionality in Illustrator, just send me an email using the address in the description for this movie. If you like this movie, please share a link to my YouTube channel on social media. That helps me to grow and develop new content. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe as well. Again, thank you for watching People Love Process. I hope this content helps you to improve your own creative process.